Want to watch football without the restrictions of blackouts or cable? Check out expressvpn.com to help you get access to all the live games. Sign up today using the link in the description to get 3 free months. Yo, what up, brothers? It's the director. Chargers fans, can you smell it? It smells like the NFL playoffs are quickly approaching, and the Chargers have another test on Sunday to prove their worthiness to compete in the postseason. As of right now, the Chargers have an over 60% chance to make the postseason, and a win here versus the New York Giants could vault them over 70%, possibly 80% to go to the playoffs. Which, Chargers fans, how exciting would that be, man? Justin Herbert, second year, going to the postseason, warming up maybe for a Super Bowl run. Could be this year, more likely next year, but still, it'd be great to get our young guy and this brand new head coach some exposure to the postseason. An awesome accomplishment it would also be for Brandon Staley in his first season to take his fresh team into the playoffs. So the New York Giants, don't take any team for granted in the NFL. These are professionals, okay? They live and breathe this one thing, and that is NFL football. But this team's looked pretty bad. This team's looked pretty bad for a long time now. And honestly, the only thing I have to say, maybe in like a negative light for the Chargers, if the Chargers lose this game, we got no business going to the playoffs, okay? This should be one that the Chargers try and put away quick. An important one for the Bolts to take care of business before looking to Kansas City. Now, a question for everybody in the comments section. How many sacks do you think the Chargers log in this game versus New York? And here's a hint. Maybe wait until I cover the pass rush segment if you wish, if you do choose. So before we do get started with this one, guys, as a reminder, we do have a giveaway going on right now. Merry Christmas and happy holidays to everybody. We got this signed Justin Herbert up for grabs to one of my lucky subscribers. All you got to do to enter for this one is be a subscribe to my channel. Hit up the link in the description. Follow the instructions there. Very, very simple. Good luck to everybody, man. Happy holidays. And then, of course, we always do giveaways in twos. We've got this signed full-sized Keenan Allen helmet for one of my lucky crew members. Hey, man, again, shout out to you guys. Keeps the lights on around here. Huge supporters of the channel. All you got to do to enter for this is be a member of my crew, and that is it. Good luck, everybody. And with that, let's get into this. And before we do, hit us up with a like and sub if you do enjoy this Chargers content. The small amount of time you guys take to hit the like, sub, bell notification helps me out a lot. Let's get into this one. Lights, camera, action. The Chargers versus Giants Week 14 game preview. We're getting close, man. The season is starting to come to a close. It is now or never for the Chargers. Let's take a look at the injury report, as we always do to start these videos off. The Los Angeles Chargers. Yikes, big yikes. Lots of big names on this list. I'll give you guys kind of like a rundown of what I've heard via online, no sources, whatever. You guys let me know if you see any updates in the comment section, would you? Austin Eckler, limited practice. Did get a little bit banged up last week in that game. I think last I heard it was precautionary for him in limited practice this week. He might be able to return, but maybe not a bad idea to flex out your depth a little bit in this game. Still, Austin Eckler, if he does play, expect huge things out of him. Kyler Fackrell, last I heard, again, he will not be playing this game. That does step up Uchenna Nwosu and maybe even Chris Rumph into the limelight as the opposite pass rusher of Joey Bosa. Matt Filer should be back. Man, Matt Filer, man. So good to have this dude back, dude. Oh my, he's been one of the best offensive linemen in the league this season per Pro Football Focus. So great to see him back at full practice. And then Alohi Gilman probably not going to play. Justin Jones, I haven't heard much about Justin Jones. I'll be honest. He did get banged up last week. Limited practice. Last we saw on Thursday is the last update that we've seen. You guys let me know if you hear any updates on him. Linval Joseph, the same thing too. He was on the COVID list for a while, and the last I heard, He was held out of last week's game versus the Bengals because he wasn't in game shape. He still had that thing going on with his shoulder, so maybe he makes his return this week. Chargers' run defense has certainly looked improved the last couple of weeks, so bringing back Linval Joseph could only make things better. Corey Linsley with a back injury, full practice on Thursday. He should be fine. And then lastly, the last big name here, Asante Samuel Jr., still limited because of a concussion. Now, in my opinion, Asante Samuel, I think I'd be okay with us resting him one more week. What do you guys think in the comment section? Do you think we should let Asante Samuel get one more, thing of rest before facing Kansas City, or do you think we need to bring him back into the game, get him back into game shape before facing off our division opponent next week? You guys let me know. As for the Giants, you guys already know Daniel Jones is likely out with a neck injury. Neck injuries are certainly not something you want to take lightly. And in his stead, we likely have, and I'll go over this again in a minute, we likely have Mike Glennon, who is in concussion protocol, limited practice on Thursday. Last I heard, he might be the guy, but again, we'll go over that more in just a minute. Limited practice for Kenny Golladay, rib injury, did not practice on Wednesday. That'd be a huge absence for the Giants if he does miss the game. Adoree Jackson, big free agent this offseason, has not practiced. Kadarius Toney, big rookie this season, limited practice. Saquon Barkley, limited. A lot of big names once again on the opposite side of the Chargers this week too. Gonna have to wait and see. We'll maybe see if we can get you guys some updates on Friday or later today once the full injury report has been released. But yeah, a lot of big names to keep an eye on in this one. So let's get into the gravy of this video, the big segment, the keys to victory. How did the Chargers take down the New York Giants in this Week 14 matchup? First off, I want to go over something kind of unique, not something I've seen a lot throughout the course of being a Chargers fan. We're going to call this one the mini bye week. And I know what you guys are saying, right? You don't want to look past this game to the Kansas City Chiefs. You don't want to ignore, any professional football team in the NFL. But at the same time, the state that the team is in right now, the Chargers are a little bit banged up, right? The Chargers at this point, there are some key factors to this team, including guys on the COVID list that definitely are going to have a big effect on this game. Of course, the COVID list we'll go over in just a second. That's a pretty big thing. You guys are probably wondering in the injury report, Director, why aren't you talking about Keenan and Mike and Chris Harris Jr.? We'll get to that in just a second. But with the Chargers being in such, not disarray, but disadvantage as far as health right now, maybe not a bad idea to rest some of these key players like we just talked about with Asante Samuel Jr., maybe giving him one extra week to get back on his feet, really try and, put that concussion behind him, the pair of concussions behind him. But I don't know, at the same time, this is a must-win week. Again, it would vault the Chargers maybe over 80% as far as making the playoffs. So it's risky. It's definitely risky, but it could definitely pay off down the stretch if it comes to these players being available and healthy versus these really big games coming up. So we'll keep that in mind, okay? Next up, Disgustin' Justin. Justin Herbert was on fire last week versus the Cincinnati Bengals. Absolutely huge game. Him versus, a Joe Burrow. He needs to carry that success into this game this week. Keep the engine hot and running for Kansas City. Continue to flex maybe those improved reads that we've been seeing, the improved decision making. And it's definitely one that the Chargers want to keep Justin Herbert, hot before going into some bigger games towards the end of the season. The last thing I'll add here for Justin Herbert is run, run, run. This will force New York and future teams to adjust and maybe open up some opportunities for some uncovered guys, maybe some extra linebackers in the box. Who knows? Who knows what that could do? But it's definitely a good thing for the Chargers having Justin Herbert running gain yards on the ground, safely sliding whenever he can. Next up, opportunity in the palm of your hand. Keenan is likely out this game, and this is where we're going to talk about the Chargers' COVID situation right now. Keenan is likely out. He was tested positive for COVID. I think there's a small chance that he can return with a couple of negative tests, but we still haven't quite heard confirmation of that. Mike Williams, as well as Chris Harris Jr., were also put on the COVID list as being contacts of Keenan Allen, but the last I heard, they might be playing. I've heard things from Chris Harris Jr. that he's been testing negative. He should be fine. Been hearing things about Mike Williams that he's been testing negative. He could play as well, but we just don't know at this point. And that could really shake up the Chargers wide receiver group. Guyton and Palmer, these guys may need to step up big time in this Week 14 matchup. I think Palmer, honestly, could see his best game of the season. Of course, we have seen some touchdowns and big plays to Jalen Guyton, but, Josh Palmer, this guy, dude, kind of, a hybrid between Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, could see a pretty decent week this week too, man. So, and it really depends on who's playing. If Mike Williams does not play, the Chargers wide receiver group likely looks like this. Guyton at number 1, Palmer at number 2, and then at number 3, who do we have? Might have to elevate somebody from our practice squad like Joe Reed or KJ Hill. Maybe Andre Roberts sees a little bit of playing time in this week too. You just never know. But in my personal opinion, no matter what happens, Mike plays, Mike doesn't play, I think Josh Palmer sees a good chance at making a big impact in this week's game. So we'll have to wait and see how that shakes out come Sunday. But Josh Palmer, man, this rookie's been incredible. A lot of room to grow, I do think, and we could see his talents put on full display on Sunday. Next up, so who's under center? We talked about this in the injury report. Daniel Jones out, Mike Glennon likely in, but we're not quite certain that it's going to be Mike Glennon yet. Of course, he's going through the concussion protocol. The last I heard, it's going to be Mike Glennon. If not, Jake Fromm would be the next guy up. And honestly, if Mike Glennon struggles at any point in this game, we might see Jake Fromm get some playing time in this game too. But what does this mean for the Chargers? Mike Glennon, he's kind of an on-again, off-again quarterback. He kind of reminds me of the poor man's Jameis Winston, which you guys know Jameis Winston. He can be really good, but he also throws a lot of interceptions, and that's something I've noticed in Mike Glennon too. He can get really hot in the red zone, but he also throws a lot of interceptions. And honestly, Mike Glennon versus the Chargers defense might not be a bad matchup if you play a little fantasy football, if you ask me. I actually picked him up in my big league as we're continuing into the playoffs in my big fantasy football league. So I don't know, man. And if Jake Fromm ever sees the field this game too, we just don't really know very much about him. He could be okay, but in my opinion, he just hasn't seen a lot of experience or exposure. So the Giants are down bad when it comes to their quarterback situation, and this may be a situation the Chargers can capitalize on and try and put this game away early because of Mike Glennon, which is kind of a crazy thing to say because the next segment here is called No Shortage of Weapons. It kind of blows my mind every year. I see this Giants roster, right, and I look at the weapons they have. Kenny G, Shepard, Kadarius Toney, Slayton, Saquon, Ingram. This offense should be really, really good just based on the names and the talents they have at skill positions. But you know what happens every single year? The lack of quarterback play, the inconsistency, the quality of quarterback play just costs him big. And unfortunately for Daniel Jones, who I was hoping would be a really good quarterback, I was honestly rooting for the guy. I thought he was pretty good coming into his rookie season. It may spell a grim future for him going into upcoming seasons because the Giants, man, they get themselves a good quarterback. This team could definitely flip into a contender. They got the weapons, but as of right now, the quarterback just can't make good use of it. With Mike Glennon under center this week, I don't know if that's going to change. Still, it's something I had to bring up. Kenny G, Shepard, Slayton, Ingram, these guys are really good players at times, but as of late, the quarterback just can't back it up. Next up, Oline brother, where art thou? The Giants' offensive line this year, dudes, has been awful outside of maybe Andrew Thomas. Andrew Thomas has been pretty decent, but everybody else has been downright atrocious, allowing multiple sacks almost every single game. I think 6 out of the last 7 games they've allowed multiple sacks, which is absolutely insane. They just can't keep it together. They cannot protect their quarterback. They cannot give their running backs room to operate. And what this should help the Chargers do this week is let those pass rushers feast. This is what I was talking about with that question at the top of the show. How many sacks do you think the team walks away with this week? I don't know, man. Bosa and Nwosu, these guys should feast. We've been moving Bosa around very well. Bosa should be back in this game, by the way. I know guys saw him go out last week with the concussion. He cleared in the middle of the game. He was held out because of precaution. Joey Bosa should be back in this one, and he should have a really, really good bounce-back game from injury. I'm guessing in this game, me personally, get your answers in if you don't want to be, faltered by mine, but I think this team gets 2 sacks, maybe more, maybe a lot more. It could be a 3-4 sack day for this defense because of how bad this O-line has been for the New York Giants. Honestly, just one of the worst we've seen in a while for the group. So they got a lot of rebuilding to do there with the Giants, I think, starting with those guys in the trenches. Next up, Canine booster pack. You guys go to those card shops, you're like, man, I need a booster pack. I need somebody out here just to give us a little boost in this area or that area. Canine definitely needs the same thing right now because Kenneth Murray has really struggled to find a spot on this roster. If you guys hear baby director over there, he's playing Minecraft, so that can work. Thanks, Booger. Appreciate it, man. Kenneth Murray struggled to find a spot on this roster for the past couple of weeks, right? He's really been outplayed by Kaiser White and Drew Tranquil in the last few weeks, and those guys have been absolutely stellar in this brand new Staley defense, kind of leaving Kenneth Murray out of the pack. And we've talked a lot about this. There's been, questions surfacing about, do we trade him? What do we do with him? Is he a depth piece at this point? I think for this game in particular, though, we should give him hella reps at edge this week, right? In practice, I'm hoping that's what they've been doing. But against this, as bad of an offensive line as the Giants have right now, this could be a confidence boost for Canine and a great place to test his skills at edge. I know we're going to see a lot of Nwosu, who's definitely been looking really good lately. Chris Rumpf looked really solid last week too, but maybe throw in, a handful of snaps for Canine at edge too, just to see if he can penetrate that line, especially versus a line like the one we're seeing this week. He should find some success. If he can't get through, even versus the New York Giants line, maybe the edge experiment should come to a close. I don't know. He needs a lot of help in practice and reps at that position if that's what the Chargers want to do in transitioning him to the outside. But at this point, I think it couldn't hurt. So maybe give Canine a boost. If he can get through, get a sack this game, great. If he can show that he's getting penetration and pressure, great. If he struggles, maybe go back to the drawing board, figure out what you want to do with Kenneth Murray, or if he just needs more time to develop as an edge rusher too. Because a lot of people see Micah Parsons' potential in Canine, and I think it does exist, but he's going to need some time to ease himself into that role. Next up, Saquon, a decline. I hate to say it, man. Saquon Barkley, first round pick for a couple of years before going down with injury. This guy, man, what a revolutionary player in his rookie season. We all had super high expectations. Some people were saying the next LaDainian Tomlinson. I wouldn't go that far, but the guy was really, really talented. Since then, though, he's not been the same player. Not for a while, at least. That injury really did put some speed bumps in his journey as a football player. He's a threat to pop off. Certainly, he could definitely do that at any given week, especially one versus, a Chargers defense that certainly struggled. He could be a threat, but he hasn't really shown signs of popping off anytime soon. So we have to acknowledge that Saquon's a really good player. He is a threat, but not as big as he used to be. So this is me acknowledging Saquon Barkley as an elite player, but maybe not as elite as he used to be, and the Chargers should still keep an eye on him if they can. Next up, sneaky defense, sir. The Giants' defense has been decent, okay? We will say that. But they've only been around a middle-of-the-pack defense. Nothing crazy. I've seen a lot of praise in their direction, which can definitely happen at times. They've been okay versus the pass, but a bottom 10 team versus the run. And that may be where the Chargers try and target an attack this week versus the Giants. But I just wanted to acknowledge that their defense has been a lot better than what their offense has been throughout the season. And we want to make sure that Justin Herbert finds some success, stays healthy, stays upright. And that's why I'm saying maybe keep an eye out for Leonard Williams, who's a decent player, and Azeez Ojulari, who could definitely pop off as well. So keep an eye on the defense. It's not the scariest defense out there, but a decent middle-of-the-pack defense we got to keep our eye on. Lastly, for this video, you spin me Roundtree. Maybe right round. If healthy, Eckler should have a big game this week. We already talked about bottom 10 defense for the New York Giants as far as the run. But I would also see this as another good opportunity for the Chargers to continue in their search for running back too. We've seen weeks where it was Joshua Kelly. We've seen weeks where it was Justin Jackson. The last guy that really hasn't seen that big, tryout week has been Larry Roundtree. And honestly, Roundtree, he could be pretty decent. And again, versus the New York Giants, it could be a decent opportunity to see his skill set, maybe see him pop off and see what he's got on this team. Because the Chargers at this point, my opinion, my solid opinion as of right now, they got to go out there and add another guy, man. Get somebody to complement Austin Eckler because he needs help. He's a great player, but he needs help. Maybe we see something and have something in Larry Roundtree. Maybe he's kind of like a permanent running back 3 on this team. But it wouldn't be a bad idea to try him out in this game. So finally, the final segment in these videos, Thank you, little director, for allowing me to do this today. Final segment in this video, the score prediction. What do I think happens in this game? We're just going to be blunt. We're going to throw it out there instantly here. Chargers 38, Giants 13. Now, the bottom line for me, this is, I think this is a big game for the Bolts, no matter who the opponent might be. In this case, it is the New York Giants, who a lot of people maybe, look past. And I can sometimes be guilty of that, too. I'm already looking at Kansas City. But for the Chargers team, they got to stay focused on what's in front of them. What's in front of them is the New York Giants, because the consequences of this game are huge. They got to put this one away quick. Because, again, this could be the game that vaults the Chargers into a solid chance of making the playoffs. They more than likely make the playoffs if they win this game. But it's also one the Chargers need to put away quick. Keep the momentum from last week going, score a ton of points, use this game to establish confidence before facing teams like Kansas City, maybe the Raiders and the Broncos again. We're going to need that confidence, that momentum, and that energy to carry us forward. And again, that's kind of why I said maybe not a bad idea to rest some of your stars if they need some extra time. Week 15, man. Next week after the Giants, that could ultimately determine who reigns king over the AFC West. So the Chargers, momentum's going to be a big thing to try to establish and carry into that week, but you also can't drop this game, man. Don't turn this into a trap game. Make sure you're focused on what's in front of you. Put this game away and give yourself a solid chance at making the postseason. So, again, guys, thank you so much for joining me. In the comment section, that question, how many sacks do you think the Chargers get in this week versus a less than stellar offensive line for the New York Giants? And also give me your score prediction of what you think the Chargers do versus the New York Giants. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been the Director. We'll see you next time, and as always, bolt up and stay frosty.